Okay, I'd like to call to order this 2/22/22 meeting of the Escondido Planning Commission. If we could rise to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Chair Barbet.
Present.
Commissioner Doan is absent. Commissioner Paul.
Present.
Vice Chair Rainey is absent. Commissioner Ramirez. Present. Commissioner Serrato is absent. And Commissioner Weiler.
Here.
Okay, just a note to our members of the public, if you are planning to submit if you're planning to speak, no, okay, just checking, that you would submit a speaker slip. All right, how about the minutes? The minutes of the January 25th meeting. Are there any changes or questions about the minutes? No? If somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 25th, 2022.
I second the motion. Shall we have a roll call?
Chair Barbet.
I have to abstain. I wasn't here.
Commissioner Paul.
Approved.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Approve.
Commissioner Weiler.
Yes. Approved.
Okay, the vote is 3-0 to approve with 3 absent and 1 abstained.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Rainey is not here, but I would like to thank her for facilitating last meeting. I was sorry not to make it, but I listened into the meeting audio and recognized that they had some great discussion during that meeting, so thank you. Written communications. Do we have any?
There are 2 items that were left for everyone. Both were also emailed out today. A letter from the Sierra Club North County Group and an email from Patricia Borchman.
Right, noted. Future neighborhood meetings?
There is nothing currently scheduled as far as I'm aware, but I'm sure with the item that we'll be discussing tonight, there will be numerous meetings coming in the coming months. So.
Great. Okay. Oral communications? And I think we have none. Right?
There are none.
None? Okay. And we have no public hearings this evening, current business, so we leap right to Veronica.
Thank you, Chair Barbet. Planning Commissioners, good evening. My name is Veronica Morones, Senior Planner, and I am presenting a draft outreach and engagement plan for the 2022 General Plan Amendment, which is for an environmental justice element and community protection chapter update to the city's general plan. So to give some background, the requirement to update the city's community protection chapter and environmental justice element were triggered by the city's update to the 6th cycle housing element, or as a result of the 6th cycle housing element update. And so that process for the community protection chapter and environmental justice element has kicked off recently at the end of 2021. The update to the community protection chapter and creation of a new environmental justice element are the items that constitute the 2022 General Plan Amendment project name. And as stated, the last point in time that Commission was updated on this project was December 14th, 2021. So this is just a general timeline. This timeline was presented at the December 14th kickoff meeting to Planning Commission. There have been some minor modifications on that timeline as it pertains to the time of 2022. You will see those noted in bold. Currently, the phase number 2 draft community outreach and engagement plan is what is before you this evening and where we are in this timeline. So before we delve into the request that's before you tonight to solicit input on this draft plan, For those who may listen to this audio or those who are in our audience this evening, I wanted to give some context and background to this overall project. So I want to start with what is a general plan. So a general plan is a city's blueprint for their long-term vision and future. I like to think of it as the constitution to a city. It's made up of different chapters, which the state refers to as elements. So you'll hear those terms changed between the two. Our general plan calls them chapters, so I refer to them as chapters. The environmental justice element, I guess I refer to that one as an element. And so a general plan is a large policy document. It's typically pretty long and dense, and it's comprised of text, figures, pictures, maps, that sort of thing. So this image on this slide is just the chapters of our current general plan, which was adopted in 2012. This slide just shows some examples from the city's current general plan, what it looks like, what you can expect to see within a general plan chapter. On the left is the title page of our community health and services chapter, and on the right is a map from our current safety element. So then, what is the community protection chapter, also known as the safety element? You'll again hear these terms interchangeably throughout this presentation because the city's safety element we refer to as community protection. So as I stated, general plans are comprised of chapters, also called elements. The state requires 9 different mandatory elements. One of those is the safety element, which touches on hazards for a community. And again, we call ours the community protection chapter. So what is environmental justice? Environmental justice, according to the state of California, is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all races, cultures, incomes, and national origins with respect to development, adoption, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. So this is based on the reality that certain groups in our community have unequal environmental and economic burdens and unhealthy living conditions as a result of certain government laws, regulations, and policies. What are environmental justice communities? So you'll hear this term come up a lot through this 2022 General Plan Amendment project. And the state of California defines environmental justice communities as low-income areas that are disproportionately impacted by environmental pollution and other hazards as a result of certain government laws, regulations, and policies. So environmental justice communities in the city of Escondido will be made priority areas for addressing those harms from environmental pollution and other hazards that resulted from those governmental laws, regulations, and policies. These environmental justice communities have not been identified. That's something that we will undertake as a part of this process, and we intend to do an extensive amount of outreach and engagement within our communities to work on identifying those communities, as well as using empirical data from the state to preliminarily identify those locations. So then why is the city conducting outreach and engagement? So we definitely want to have community input and empowerment in creation of shaping policy goals and objectives in both documents. We want to increase our inclusivity and voices and opinions surrounding environmental justice policies, objectives, and goals. And outreach and engagement is a state requirement. You have to undergo this effort when you amend a general plan or update a general plan. So the request before you this evening is to solicit input on the draft plan that staff have created for the outreach and engagement process associated with the 2022 General Plan Amendment. The draft community outreach and engagement plan is broken into 7 chapters. Chapter 1 introduces the plan. It helps the reader understand what the 2022 General Plan Amendment is and why we may be doing this. It also seeks to define outreach and engagement because those terms can become very nebulous as we go throughout this. Chapter 2 outlines goals, the goals of the plan, the outreach and engagement plan. So what are the goals of this plan? Chapter 3 is a community snapshot and equity assessment. What is the demographics of our city? What should we be doing to reach our community effectively? Are there things we could do better this time around or next time around? Chapter 4 is actions and strategies. So these are going to be your actual items that we will be undertaking to do outreach and engage with our community, and there are general timeframes for project milestones of when that would occur. Chapter 5 is meant to be the outcome of that engagement effort. So Chapter 5 will be added to throughout the process of outreach and engagement on this project, documenting, so to speak, what the efforts are that we've conducted. The idea being we would update the document quarterly. Chapter 6 would be a frequently asked question. Again, it's forthcoming, so in theory, if I'm a general public person, I could look at this document, go to the FAQ section, and hopefully there would be a lot of my common questions answered for me right then and there. And Chapter 7 is references and resources. So again, providing resources for our community members on topics that they might not know about, like environmental justice, like a general plan. So in addition to requesting feedback from our planning commissioners, we're also requesting feedback from our community. And so that can be done through multiple ways. We do have a web page set up for the 2022 general plan amendment that includes a comment form. They can provide comment via phone or email. My contact information is on the webpage. It's on the outreach plan, draft outreach plan, and on this slide. Or they can come in person and provide a hard copy letter. They can talk to me at the front counter, anything like that. So the next steps in this process would be to translate the document into Spanish. Staff is working on that. It's underway to get it translated currently. We want to receive feedback from both our planning commissioners and our community to see how we might make this document even more robust and make sure we reach as many Escondido community members as possible. Then we will revise and update the draft plan with feedback and continue our outreach efforts. That concludes my presentation on this current business item. I'm available for questions if anyone would like to ask.
So questions from commissioners to staff, to Veronica. Commissioner Paul.
Thanks, Veronica. This is like the most comprehensive outreach plan the city has ever done. Thank you very, very much. The one thing I wanted to ask about is the dam at Lake Dixon, and I don't remember how much it's mentioned in the general plan from a safety point of view. I know there's a specific safety plan for it. It's standalone document, but I just wanted to make sure that when we talk about the safety issues and evacuations, that we take the inevitable failure of that dam into consideration. Okay, thank you.
Do you have any?
Well, more of a comment. Thank you, Veronica. This is really great. And one of the things that I wanted to just highlight, and hopefully, I know that's already in the plan, but social media being a really good tool to get some of the tools that you just shared with us. But it was really great, so thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Commissioner Weiler?
And, I want to echo my fellow planning commissioners on this. I think this is a great document. And I think part of the job of the city, and especially in the decision-making process, is that we're transparent about what we're trying to accomplish here and get as much input from our community as possible. This is comprehensive. This is a lot of work. And I hope staff is able to really implement all these things that are in here because, it's a lot. But I think the community would actually really benefit from staff getting out and talking to people to find out what their concerns are and what's really important to them. So, yeah, I have to commend you for the effort that you put together and whoever helped you out. So I don't have any real questions. It was just, I think this is a great document.
Resounding support. From my perspective, I'm just curious, and I totally echo everyone's comments about how this is really fabulous, and we really look forward to the process. And actually hearing from you as we go along, and certainly on how it's coming. I also agree with Stan in the sense that you are one. I hope you have folks who can help you out. And what's really nice about this one is if you can possibly engage, if you will, from, as I've talked to you about before, is like across sectors within the city staff to try to get out and about, so that it's truly a both listening and learning as well as trying to develop this. So as I understand it, then this is for both the safety element as well as the EJ element, right?
That is correct.
So I guess I'll be very curious to hear how you're going to separate that out within the actual outreach plan. I mean, how are you going to address the safety issues versus EJ? And obviously they're related in many cases, but not always. Like, for example, what Commissioner Paul was just talking about. So I guess it's just sort of a question as to how you might figure that out generally.
Sure. So I will say that there is quite a bit of overlap. There's quite a bit of intersectionality between safety, hazards, issues, and environmental justice. So for example, one of the more common examples out there is wildfires, right? When we have a wildfire, that is a safety element issue that gets discussed. We talk about wildfires, evacuation routes, wildfire urban interface, all sorts of those topics. Well, when you have a wildfire, you have smoke, you have particulate matter, you have lower air quality, and there are certain groups who are exposed to that more disproportionately than other groups, such as outside workers, people who don't have the ability necessarily to call into work or not go to work, where they would be exposed to that lower air quality, and that's an environmental justice issue. So with this effort, the idea is that because there is quite a bit of intersectionality, we are taking it as one project forward, this amendment, this update. The goal of the plan, I think, is to start at a very high level of outreach and engagement on these topics, and I think that there's quite a bit of room for education on these topics. A lot of my family and friends are not planners, and when I talk to them about this, they don't know what I'm talking about. So if I use them as a bellwether, I think there's a lot of room for educating community residents, community groups, stakeholders on what these documents are and how they matter to them. And so starting high level, and as we drill down more and more throughout this process, and we identify our environmental justice communities, we identify where possibly new hazard zones have come up, an increase in fire hazard severity. Maybe it used to be moderate, now CAL FIRE says it's very high. We identify these communities and we do much more targeted outreach and engagement in those communities to notify them of what is transpiring, right? Are they in a dam inundation zone that maybe wasn't the case when we created the safety element in 2012, but maybe in this update they might be now. So there are, that idea being that we'll drill down more and more and continue to tailor the outreach and engagement as we move on. This is really a guiding framework for the effort that we intend to undertake. It's really meant to be more of not only a living document. There might be community members who say this isn't a really effective way to reach our safety communities. There's actually a better method for this. And so we want to know that, and that might come 6 months from now. We might find that voice. So it's really meant to be a way for staff to document what also works and what doesn't work. Perhaps there's things that we learn along the way that maybe we don't need to reinvent the wheel when we go to do a future general plan update. So it's meant to be comprehensive for that purpose, and hopefully save and make outreach more efficient time-wise in the future.
Great, thank you. That's helpful.
You know,
Commissioner Weiler?
I did want to, and I meant to do this during my time I had spoke, but we had gotten the letter from the North County group of the Sierra Club, and there were a number of items that were brought up by them. I don't know if we want to take these into consideration as a planning commission or not, but you know, I just want to make sure that you know, staff does look at this. They really consider these things as a part of the process that we're going through right now, and I know that it's ongoing, so it's probably not necessary for us to discuss as a planning commission, but I just want to make sure that I at least recognize this, and there are some things in here that I think are very good, and that staff does take those into consideration. And then the other thing is, we're not really here to discuss the actual elements themselves and the components or such. This is purely just the outreach.
Correct.
Terrific.
Yeah, just
Oh.
the outreach plan even, not actual outreach.
The outreach plan, thank you.
So just to echo Commissioner Weiler's comments about the Sierra Club comments, I just wholly endorse these. I do have a question, though, just around, which sort of builds out from their letter. The emphasis on actions, which I think is really commendable, but it's just a procedural question or whatever, in the sense that with a general plan element, it's not the role of the authors, is it, to include actions? It's more of a framework policy document, and then you have plans that evolve to actually address the priorities that are identified? Is that how it works? I'm just curious. Or in the actual chapter itself, you list out actual actions that the city will take for the next X number of years or whatever.
I've seen general plan elements drafted in both
ways?
It's
Okay.
really, I think, up to the jurisdiction on how they choose to frame that and implement that. But generally speaking, you'll see policies outlining goals and objectives of what it is the city is looking to do based on that topic. So
Right, and then in the form of regulations and actions.
yes,
So usually
implementation of that document typically comes through another level, correct? Ordinances,
Right.
specific plan implementation, if there was to be one built off that.
I mean, I'm thinking of the climate action plan as an example, which is not part of the general plan, but it's an action plan that is to be implemented by the city. So I guess that's what I'm getting at, is that there's not like actions and then deadlines and things that are listed in this document, correct? I mean, at least not yet.
So I think kind of building on what Veronica was saying, there are some elements that would have actionable items in them. Some don't. What I can point to is our housing element. You know, it's got programs in there that dictate or that specify you must do A, B, and C in order to achieve, you know, whatever the objectives are, right? So there's actual programs that are actually in there. Not all general plan elements have that. In fact, in our general plan, I don't think there's much of it, but the potential is there.
I was going to say, this might pose an opportunity to do a little bit more of that, is because in my experience wading through the general plan for Escondido, I've had the same sort of observation that there's not a lot of actions that are, you know, actually listed. There's programs and ideas, but not necessarily.
Yeah, and to Veronica's point, that is to an extent by design, right? It is a very broad policy document that kind of guides what the direction will be, and then those actions are more definitively laid out in other plans. So
Right. So I guess I'm just, ultimately where I'm going there is accountability. Where does the accountability actually happen for results? And I guess that would be in part here and in part in implementation plans of various offices or whatever.
That type of language can be built into
Okay.
the documents theoretically.
Well, I would encourage that, at least, you know, where does the accountability happen? You know, just at least and also through your outreach to be able to articulate that, I think would be really helpful, because building on what as you can see from the Sierra Club comments, they're clearly going to be looking for that, and, or at least looking for a framework within which that can happen. Not necessarily that group, but I mean the general public also.
and if I could add to that, we do have an implementation chapter
Okay.
in the general plan. It's the last or second to last chapter that kind of gets into how the rest of the or how the programs or policies, et cetera, in the general plan are implemented. Some of them don't require any action necessarily. They're just kind of monitor this or that. But there are certain action items in there that it does, or certain programs and policies in there that it does discuss how those should be implemented over time.
Good. Okay, and my last comment would be around Ms. Borchman's comments that came in by email. I thought that she had some really valid comments, as well as the Sierra Club, with respect to the evacuation routes and thinking about evacuation, that hopefully you'll also consider that in your outreach. Okay. Oh, and especially on top of that too, the idea, I really like the idea of meeting with communities that are on the front lines of wildfire zones. I think that's exceedingly important to get their input, their feedback on it. Any other questions, comments? Just 3 cheers for you, Veronica. Great job. Really wonderful. Okay, so let's see, moving on here. No more oral communications, Jessica. Planning commissioners. I already talked with Adam about a few follow-ups from the last meeting. I don't know if, does anybody have anything for the good of the order? No, not this evening. Okay, director's report.
Great, thank you, Chair. So 2 things I wanted to mention. First, we will not be holding a meeting on the 8th of March. Next meeting will be the 22nd, so in a month, 4 weeks from today. And then the other thing I wanted to let the commission know and to wish adieu and good luck to our Senior Deputy City Attorney, Kurt Whitman. He's going to be moving on to greener pastures. I think he's moving to Northern California to take a job with a private law firm. So
Wow.
we've enjoyed your time and your expertise here on the commission, with the commission, Kurt.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and thank you, Adam, and thank you, commissioners. This, honestly, sitting up here, being on the dais, advising the Planning Commission has been one of the most honorable and exciting roles for me as part of my duties as Senior Deputy City Attorney. Basically, I've been here through the whole pandemic. That's my story, the start of the pandemic, and when Chair Weiler was leading the team, and now Chair Barbet. And I just feel that this Planning Commission is a really solid Planning Commission. I've really enjoyed the discussions, and I just wish you all the best in the future, and just keep doing what you do. And I want to give a shout out to Interim Director Feinstone. Adam's just a great director. His diligence is unprecedented, and his whole planning team is also very solid. And also a shout out to Owen and the engineering team. A lot goes into all this, presenting these things to Planning Commission, and I have the honor of seeing all that behind the scenes, and really credit is due to staff here. They put in a lot of work, and I've just appreciated being a part of it. So thank you all.
Commissioner Paul?
Yeah, Kurt, it's been great working with you. You helped me tremendously, and I've loved the exchange back and forth. Thank you. Good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with your new position.
Yeah, and I too want to thank you, Mr. Whitman, because you helped me out a lot with all of those various planning commissions when we're trying to do this in a remote situation, which was a little tough because it just operates a little bit differently. But thank you. I really appreciate all the assistance and insight that you were able to provide myself and the rest of the commission, and certainly good luck on everything that you do in the future. But thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else? No. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you so much.